was the most badass left turn. In August, San Francisco got the long-awaited green light to hit the roads with passengers using their driverless cars. And guess what? We got to try them. It was our first time ever in a driverless car.
Yeah, and we didn't really know what to expect. Now, there aren't very many available options here other than Waymo and Cruise, and though we tried to get access to both, we were only able to get access to Cruise. So we decided to give it a go all the way across SF from one point to another end to get dinner.
So let's get in on the action.
All right, is this our car? 7?
Looks like our car. We're doing this. We are doing this.
That's it, it's Clam, that's ours.
Well, let's see.
How do we unlock the car? Hi there. Take a seat like that. Whoa.
All right.
Oh, I guess you gotta come in, JJ.
I guess we have to go for it and click start ride, right?
Start ride.
Uh-oh.
Your seatbelt buckled during.
This is happening, you guys.
It actually is telling us that JJ's seatbelt is unbuckled, but
Yes.
it's still going.
Even the person filming has to put their seatbelt on. Be careful out there. That's the first important note.
Oh my
Everybody should be
gosh.
safe. Welcome to the future.
Oh, there's actually a button up here to press end ride.
Oh,
and
yeah.
help.
Enjoy your ride.
And passenger belt, I'm not sure what that means. I felt very good about that end ride button. I feel better.
Kind of reminds me of like a treadmill when it's going too fast, or maybe this car is doing some unexpected turns.
Yeah.
Just like end ride.
So I was reading how city driving is actually the most challenging part of the whole self-driving technology. If they can figure out really well full autonomy in a city, then the sky is the limit, right? There is no problem to take a car to the freeway. But somehow, for me personally, I feel great right now in a tiny street with going at 15 miles an hour. But if we hit the freeway, which I hope we won't, I'm not gonna feel so comfortable.
Wait, are they allowed to go on freeways?
I think so because they.
I don't think they are.
Yeah?
They're not yet.
I've seen videos of people being, let's call them double yellow lines, where the car seems to be like at 50 miles an hour or something.
Yeah.
And that's where I would feel just uneasy.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. First turn.
Left turn.
We did it.
Is there anything harder than a left turn? This is it, right?
Yeah, that was the biggest test, I'd say.
Alexa, take the scenic route.
Wrong company. If we were in a Zoox, maybe.
Yes.
That would work.
I've been commuting South Bay for a while for work, and I would commute from SF to Palo Alto. And I try to mess around with Uber, trying to see the price, which would be around like $65 maybe right now from San Francisco. But if you take a look at the price tiers on a cruise, you would end up probably with something like $50 right now.
Wow.
And so that's a 20% price difference.
Yeah.
I would have thought that it would be a lot cheaper, actually.
With Cruise, because of the fact that they don't have to pay a driver.
Yeah, I think the driver is most of the cost of the trip, right? The big difference, I imagine, is that, well, Uber famously doesn't have cars to deal with, right? So amortization of cars and the fleet to maintain. And so gas is small anyway, it's gonna be a small part of it. But it does feel like probably they're gonna have a much higher gross margin profile than in Uber.
Right.
It's just that the revenue they get is not net of a driver cost, so that does change a little bit just the overall formula.
I think they're playing catch up right now, and they still need to prove that, first of all, they're still proving the technology works. And they, as in the industry, has invested billions. And I think they need to charge a reasonable amount to support their ongoing efforts to build this technology and eventually sustain a profitable business, whether it's creating fleets of robotaxis or just selling the technology to other manufacturers.
Yeah, that's right. So it justifies the investment, all this R&D investment made for years has to be offset somehow. So that's where the real savings don't pass to the end user, because we have to fund the years of research of the years past.
We're paying for access to a novel technology, and I think there's inherent value in that, even if there is no driver. But you're right, in the long term, having no drivers would theoretically lower the overall cost.
Yeah, hopefully. I'm ready to use this all the time. I mean it. I'm ready to go to Tahoe and tell my car, drive me there.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with all those things, driving in the snow, having issues. Maybe I'm still the guy who has to physically put the chains on the tires.
We need a service that does that, puts chains on tires.
Yeah, that's the tough part with Tahoe. But otherwise, I mean, I don't know if you know this about me, but I don't like driving.
Okay.
It's like something I really dislike because I generally think like being in a car, it's kind of scary and unsafe. Maybe I picked it up from my mom because my mom always used to tell me like, oh, give me a call or text me once you arrive, right? And I think this is just a reasonable request because you want to know that, your son is safe. That's a reasonable thing from my mom.
Right.
But in general, it's true that there is no time in your life where you're at risk of dying more than when you're in a car, statistically, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the goal of all of this AV technology is to reduce that risk. It's still to be proven, I think, in the overall sense. But I agree with you that a lot of people would be willing to give up driving as an activity. But I think the majority of Americans, at least, love driving. Not because they love necessarily the act of driving, but because it gives them a sense of control and autonomy.
Yeah.
That's what it represents. And I think it's going to take a while for driverless cars to be associated with a different kind of sense of autonomy.
That's an excellent point. There are circumstances where I do want to be able to drive. Like, let's say I'm like, oh, honey, let's grab a Fiat 500 convertible and go in the wine county. I don't want to have a driverless car for that. I want to feel like, oh, I'm the one taking turns, looking at the view, enjoying the vineyards and the sunset.
Exactly.
You want to be driving the horse leading to sunsets. You don't want to have a driverless horse.
Driverless horse. That would just be a horse.
It's called a horse, my friend. There are use cases where it's not super relevant, but there are other use cases where we really want it. I cannot wait for it to come to as a technology to your own car. That's going to be really the key, right?
Yeah.
And probably that's the story, right? If you own a car that does have this technology, just like an Airbnb, as you're busy at work or something, do you put it available for people to call it, like we just did today, and you let your car earn you income by driving people around? That sounds like a really good way to empower people, the gig economy, like spending. That's another way, right?
I didn't even think about that, like as an indirect way to make money for independent people.
I mean, if you're gonna spend $80,000 on a Tesla, you might as well try to offset some of the cost with, some sweet gig economy income. But the best side hustle, you just stay at home and you let it ride for you.
That's true. Who's to say that the car manufacturer wouldn't take a cut of that though, right?
Yeah, that's true. That would be a software cut, so probably relatively low, right? Not what we're seeing right now with Cruise. Hopefully it would be something a little bit smaller because you volunteer putting the car and making it available and you own the car. And so you're in charge of maintenance, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to
that's true.
letting the company handle anything wrong that happens to the car. So it would be probably an insurance thing, but probably a model similar to Get Around, right? So if you've ever booked a Get Around, you rent someone else's car, but the company takes that cut, right? Similar to Uber or Airbnb, probably like 15 to 20%.
So you would think it would just be based on the software, but you don't think the company would take a cut every time you offer a commercial ride for another person?
They would. They most certainly would, right? But it would be a take rate similar to a marketplace, right. So closer to 15 to 20% as opposed to leaving you with the small parts.
Look, we got our own little buddy. Hi, driverless car.
Wow. We are surrounded by driverless cars.
It's cute that they have names, like ours is Clam and theirs is called River.
Nice.
Which made it easier for me to identify which car was ours, but yeah. Looks like there's no one in that one.
And they have to make it feel more relatable, right? At some point you don't want to call it, R2D2 would still work, but not every combination of letters and numbers are considered friendly. I just said hi to people.
Were they staring at
they
us
were
like
very
that?
intrigued by what was going on in this car with two random people chatting and
like,
no
"What?"
driver.
They're like, why are there 3 people squished in the back and no one sitting in the front? This doesn't really make sense.
Yes. I have to say, so far, a very smooth experience. There was no point where I felt any hesitance from the driver or lack thereof.
Exactly. Well, one thing that I learned recently is when these cars are stopped, there are instances where it will inch forward. If there's another car waiting to cross or a person, sometimes it starts inching. And one of the reasons these cars start inching is because if not, a lot of people or other drivers will take advantage of those momentary hesitations and they'll just keep going, crossing, blocking the car from being able to go.
That's super interesting.
So this is a intentional behavior built into the model.
Semi-hostile, just to be respected, because they have to overcompensate for the fact that it won't honk at you, it won't look at you like this, like.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, honestly, during this ride, I totally forgot that there isn't a driver because it's just felt pretty smooth overall.
Agreed.
But I'm impressed.
My expectation was something along the lines of we have a 17-year-old driving. That would have been like, in general, you know, you feel like, okay, we're gonna survive, but it's not gonna be pleasant. And here, instead, I feel like it could be anybody, really.
Yeah. I mean, do you think it's better than the 17-year-old driver?
17-year-old, you know, that would be my niece recently, and I mean, no, I wouldn't be super comfortable. I would stay wider, you know. I would look at the road as if I'm the driver
Do you
the entire
trust
time.
a driverless car more than your 17-year-old niece?
Well, possibly because I know that the driverless car is focused on the road the entire time.
Starting soon. Please stay buckled up.
Okay.
We made it in one piece.
I love that they are talking to us. It feels like more like a Disneyland
Right?
experience.
Oh, look, it's actually going around the stopped car.
Yeah, so
He
it
was
just
able to go around that stop.
and do it very safely.
It did it super safely.
Okay,
They
it's
pulled
parking.
over safely next to some parked cars. Success.
Well done, friends. Still in one piece.
Okay. Woohoo!
It's entirely possible we just, you know, lost your license to, you know, ride a cruise. Welcome to Painted Lady.
All right.
No audio,
we
so we can say
go.
really silly things.
Oh my God, we're doing an unprotected left-hand turn. Are we?
It's been thinking about it.
It's like thinking of turning, and now
Yeah, it's waited. Oh, wow, that was the most badass left turn.
Unprotected left turn.
Honestly, it was really nice done because a bus went toward us,
Yeah.
right? We would have been smashed by that bus. So we kind of left our lives in the hands of a little computer.
I'm pretty impressed by that. It actually did an unprotected left-hand turn
Yeah.
with a bus.
Yep.
But it was interesting because when it stopped, it was a little abrupt. And when
It
it
did.
started again, it felt abrupt.
And so that little abrupt break situation is the difference between us being alive or us being dead. This is true. When you think about it, we had a moment where, oh, why is the car stopping? Well, a bus is coming literally right at us. So
Yeah.
this is,
Oh, and it just went around this car to go
Wow.
faster.
it's...
Did you notice that?
Yeah, the more I'm seeing the thing develop in real time, the more I realize not only is this safe, but also this is actually a decent driver right there.
I agree.
Yeah. It's kind of like being a heart surgeon. It's like there is no in between. You're either good or you're awful
Yeah.
because either people survive or not. So when it comes to driving people from point A to point B, you either did it or something really shitty happened, right?
Right.
And so it's we are appreciative of the wonders, all the technology that comes to it. But if it failed at even one single bit right now, like it stops, let's say the car stops for a second and stays there for 15 minutes, it would be the worst experience for us, right?
Right. You're right. And that's the other thing I wanted to mention is people's tolerance of error when you're driving or when someone is driving you is higher, right? If somebody was engaging in road rage or you accidentally slammed the brakes, I'd be annoyed if a driver did that, or I'd be annoyed if I did that, or, you know, but if a driverless car did that, I'd be like, what the heck? This is not acceptable. I'm never going to use this service again, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's something to take into consideration when you're thinking about adoption of new technology. It's like the expectations are really high. We have hype cycles. We have moments of like, you know, extreme criticism when things are launched. And, you know, eventually expectations are dampened and technology is accepted over time. It didn't take the freeway.
Yep.
We could have taken the freeway. Can you imagine if we actually went on the freeway and we're like, oh my God, where is it taking us? We're going to LA.
And it's like, then we turn into the like Speed, the movie where the car will never go under 30 miles an hour.
You know, that could be a Black Mirror episode. Like you're stuck in a driverless car and it's just taking you somewhere. It's going super fast. You have crazy action scenes. It's a movie.
And then the radio says, just shut up. Let me ride. Who's your daddy?
I feel like the novelty has already worn off on the second ride. Like I really haven't been paying attention to the steering wheel or the fact that there's no one there. It just feels like we're taking a ride to our destination.
Yeah. And I mean, that's how we want it, right? Especially at night, you know, after a long day, you're heading home, not just on your phone the entire time, maybe you close your eyes for a minute. That's exactly how we want those rides to be, right?
Please stay buckled up until.
And then it tells you when you arrive and you wake up.
And that's where it's actually almost nicer. It's almost like a flight experience.
Right.
As opposed to just a silent experience.
I mean, next thing, they have drinks and food. You could pay for a higher tier service. It's like, you know, different tiers of luxury.
Yeah, oh, you better believe it, right?
Someone gives you, some with a massage chair in the back.
Yeah. Uber black car, Uber SUV black, they're gonna do this with self-driving, and it's gonna be a very big market, you know?
I mean, there's plenty of ways to upcharge people.
Yeah.
All right.
I think we survived. We made it part 2.
Part 2. So here's what we realized. Whether you like it or not, driverless cars are coming.
Yeah, and we were shocked by how smooth the experience was. By our second ride, everything was totally normalized. The novelty basically wore off.
Yeah, so that gave us the impression that this actually has huge potential for ride hailing. In fact, if the pricing for a driverless car is cheaper than your typical Uber ride, then it could quickly become a popular option for riders in SF and beyond.
Well, it might seem still very small. You know, we have these services available in San Francisco, in Phoenix, but if it proves to be fruitful, it's gonna be everywhere pretty quickly. And there are regulation considerations when we go outside of the US, but this is going to creep up on us, and before you know it, you'll be in a driverless car. That's at least the experience I had. Seeing it for the first time was adopting it immediately. And so, kind of like smartphones, at first it's a shock, and then it's gonna be part of all of our daily lives.
Yeah, with every new technology or service, it's gonna take a while for adoption to happen, but initially it's gonna face criticism. I think for folks like us who are used to adopting new technology, the novelty wore off right away. But I can see for other people, it's gonna take a while to get used to the fact that driverless car can be safer.
But what is your take? Would you be willing to let a driverless car give you a ride in a busy city or elsewhere? What would convince you, and what are you not convinced on yet?
And who do you think has the upper hand in this field, and do you think the world is ready? So let us know in the comments below.
And if you want a full drive through this industry, check out our video on the autonomous driving next. See you right there.